Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AITA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from Wanna Go Away Bird.
AITA. If I moved out of state without telling my family or my husband, I am pregnant. I, 24F, am 6 weeks pregnant, and my husband is Caden, 28M. We're currently separated, and I'm not on speaking terms with most of my family, except for my Uncle Jerry, 55M, and Aunt Ann, 51F. The rest of my family, no contact. Here's why I'm separated from Caden. He went on a trip with my brother Arthur, 28M, my cousin Trevor, 21M, and Uncle Jerry. They planned a week-long getaway to Nevada for Trevor's 21st birthday, booking 2 hotel rooms. Arthur and Trevor shared one room, and Caden and Jerry shared the other. Everything was fine until the 5th night. That evening, they all went to a bar together, except for Jerry, where they met some girls and decided to bring them back to the hotel. While Jerry was out getting pizza, the others headed back with the girls. When Jerry returned, he walked into Arthur and Trevor's room, finding them with 2 girls doing things. Enraged, he kicked the girls out. Then, when Jerry went back to his own room, he found Caden fully clothed but with his pants down, receiving oral from a naked girl. Jerry just yelled at him and kicked the girl out as well, then left the room and left the hotel. He started walking toward his car. He could hear them calling after him, but he kept going. They eventually caught up with him near his car, begging him to keep this a secret. They all tried to excuse their behavior, saying it was one last chance to have fun before going back to their regular lives. Caden even cried, begging Jerry not to tell. Jerry said no to keeping it a secret, telling them that he couldn't lie to and that I was like a daughter to him. If Jerry hadn't caught them, I doubt they'd have ever told me. They'd have taken this secret to their graves. When Jerry got home, he called me and told me everything. I was devastated and confronted Caden. He tried to blame me, saying I'd been neglecting him and he just wanted to have fun. Things got heated and we ended up yelling at each other. He called me some terrible names and says I was an abuser, and I just left, staying at my grandmother's house. For the next few days, I avoided everyone, and honestly, was one of the most peaceful times just staying with my grandmother. My grandmother was unaware of the situation and what was going on anyways, until I woke up one morning when I found Caden, my mom, Arthur, and Trevor waiting for me in my grandmother's dining. I felt so much tension in the house. I did sit at the dining. My mom did speak first and was insisting I should forgive Caden, saying all men make mistakes and that we women should forgive and move on. I replied, that's a great bull excuse, that men can't take responsibility for their selfish actions and thinking. Arthur and Trevor tried to apologize, but I ignored them. Caden tried to hold my hand, and I slapped it away. He tried to talk his way out of situation. It was just embarrassing at this point. I was so over it. My grandmother did catch on the situation, and she was absolutely livid, especially at my own mother. She did immediately kick them out and told them they weren't welcome until they get their together. I was grateful to have my grandmother. My grandmother said I can stay however long I want, and honestly, I didn't want to bring any more drama or stress into her house. I thought it was best for me to step away for a while. Since then, I've been staying with Uncle Jerry and Aunt Ann, the only people who've supported me in all this. I've also told my best friend Lila, 25F, about everything, and she's been incredibly supportive. She even offered to let me move out of state with her and her wife, who are planning to buy a pretty small ranch that they found. At this point, I feel like just packing up, taking my birds and small dog. I do have a horse at my Uncle Jerry's ranch, and I'm planning to rent a trailer to bring him along when I move with Lil and her wife, once we settle into their new place. And honestly, to start fresh without telling anyone, except maybe Jerry, Ann, my grandmother, and our mutual friends who are on my side, I've been keeping my pregnancy a secret, even from my uncle and aunt, because I'm afraid that Trevor might find out and tell Caden. Trevor and Caden are really close, and I can't risk them knowing. The thought of leaving without telling my family and keeping my pregnancy from them feels right given how they all sided with Caden. It still hurts me so bad how my own brother and cousin would try to hide something like this from, considering how close we all were growing up. Now I don't know who they are anymore. On top of that, my other cousins and my other aunt and uncle, not Ann or Jerry, all agree I should forgive Caden and move on. It's honestly shocking to me that everyone is on his side when I'm the one who's been hurt by all of this. I honestly just want a fresh start. So, Wibte, if I just packed up and moved out of state without anyone in my family knowing, OP is not an AH for hiding her pregnancy news from her family, especially after finding out that her husband has been unfaithful in their relationship. She isolated herself and wants a fresh start, for which has every right. Not OP, rather, OP's husband is an AH for cheating on her wife. So I would rate him to 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets nothing.
Now let's jump onto the next story from Select Ad 6986. AITA for telling a homeschool kid who broke into GTFO of my house? AITA for telling a mom that her 14-year-old son is not allowed to come into my house if no one is answering the door. Homeschooled, no delays, is of normal intelligence, but has no school friends. Fine, whatever, but it feeds into the story. 2 p.m. My also 14-year-old son and I were at a neighbor. He eventually walked back to my house with his friend, yet another neighbor. I told him about this kid being nearby, and to expect him to maybe try to catch up with them. He blew it off. Fine. 3:30 p.m. I walked back in the same direction and went to yet another person's house along the way to say hi. I visit them like once or twice a month because they never ever go to anyone's house at all, but she is up on current events, so I like to chat on occasion. Well, this kid, whom I have known his whole life, was home too, looking pretty bored. So I offered that he could walk to my house to see if my son was home. While I talked with his parents for maybe 20 minutes or so, he immediately obliged. 4 p.m. By the time I got home, my son was not home with his friend or even the other kid, obviously. So I was alone in the house with my preteen daughter. My daughter updated me to say her brother went to the friend's house to play basketball instead. So I asked her, what happened with the third kid? Did he go too, or did he come by too late? She tells me the kid came by after the other two already left, and that the boy was banging endlessly on the door. It really creeped her out because she was home alone and had no need or interest in seeing this kid. I was like, okay, a little aggressive, but whatever. 4:15 p.m. I'm falling asleep on the couch in the back den since all is so quiet. Then the banging starts again. My son was still not home. My daughter already ignored him the first, and I was snoozing in the back, so I ignored this second time. Then immediately after the bang, this time the combo lock is being fumbled, so I was certain that it was actually my son, who had to bust in quick to use the bathroom really fast. But that wasn't the case. Usually my son is loud and would have spoken upon entry to the house, but it was dead silent after the front door opened. I was unsure at first if someone was actually in my house or not. The kid starts walking around my foyer, my living room, and my kitchen, calling out my son's name. I'm still sitting in the back wondering why TF this kid is in my house, after no one answered the door twice already. I was just waiting patiently in the back room for him to confront me, where I would have told him this is not acceptable behavior and that when no one answers the door, you walk away. But he didn't turn the corner. He walked out instead, leaving the door completely shut, but not locked. I go upstairs to my daughter to make sure she was okay, and she was not. She was like, WTF was this kid in the house? And I was spooked too. I just told her I would talk to the kid's mom about boundaries here. He is 14, he should know better. 5:15 p.m. The kid comes back a third time and bangs until we came down to tell. My son is clearly still not home, or he would have answered the door for you. And 2, you may not ever enter my house when the door is shut and no one seems to be around. He came up with a lame excuse like, oh, the door was wide open and I leaned on it and fell inwards, and yeah, sorry about that. I did share the story with the mom the next day. Who is the AH? Opinion? AITA? Edit. When I told the mother, she focused on the lock, whether he knew the code or whether the door was open. And when I told her the point of all this is to property train her son, so he does not have criminal issues as an adult, she then went into attack mode to tell me yes, he admitted coming in and even seeing the time on the oven in the kitchen, but then left right away. Therefore, I should either A, call the police and file a report, or B, accept that her kid was entitled to walk in. I went to the cops with my evidence, and they are more than happy to go have a little chat. I am now debating this option, hoping she or he apologizes, but clearly they won't. OP is not an AH for setting boundaries for the safety of her children, especially her daughter. The homeschool kid is an AH for causing trouble for OP by continuously banging on their door, even though he knew that OP's son was not at home. His behavior is intolerable. As for scores, I would rate the homeschool kid 2 out of 5 on the AH scale and 0 to the OP. Let's now move on to the next story from Eska089. AITA for refusing to cook after my BF tried to critique my cooking with a literal PowerPoint presentation. So this happened a few days ago, and I'm still trying to process. For context, I, 28F, have been with my BF, 30M, for about 2 years. We live together, and I've always done most of the cooking because I genuinely enjoy it. And he claims he can't even boil water without setting off the smoke alarm. The other night, I made one of our favorite meals, and while we were eating, he got a weird smirk on his face. He then says, you know, I've been taking notes. I laughed, thinking he was joking, but then he said, no, really, I made a presentation. I still thought it was a joke until he got up, connected his laptop to the TV, and opened a PowerPoint titled, Improving Our Home Dining Experience. I was in disbelief as he went slide by slide critiquing my dishes. Slide 1, too much garlic. Slide 2, Pasta consistency. Slide 3, more salt, less sass. The kicker was slide 8, which was just a photo of Gordon Ramsay face-palming with the caption, "What he'd think." I was stunned. I told him if he had such detailed opinions, he should cook himself. He tried to backtrack, saying it was all in good fun and that he was just trying to help, but I wasn't laughing. I haven't cooked since. And now he's been living off cereal and takeout. He's sulking, saying I'm overreacting and ruining the joke. So, AITA, for refusing to cook after my BF presented me with a PowerPoint critique of my cooking.
Edit. Thanks for all of your comments and support. I just posted an update. Workplace update. AITA for refusing to cook after my BF tried to critique my cooking with a literal PowerPoint presentation. Hey everyone, just when I thought this PowerPoint saga was done and dusted, it turns out the story took an unexpected dive into corporate drama. So here's the latest. My ex works at a big consulting firm, and they found out about the PowerPoint breakup. Between all the shares and the news articles, thanks New York Post and Board Panda, the story somehow made its way into his office. And let's just say, it's been causing some serious disruption over there. The news came to me from a mutual friend who's actually a colleague of his. This friend couldn't resist sharing the story with a few other co-workers. And before long, the whole office knew that he was the boyfriend behind the Reddit famous PowerPoint critiquing his girlfriend's cooking. People pieced it together pretty quickly. Honestly, how many PowerPoint-loving culinary critics can a single firm employ? And now it's become this unofficial inside joke that's taken over his team. Apparently, the real kicker happened yesterday. My ex had to present in a team meeting, and from what I've heard, it didn't exactly go smoothly. As soon as he pulled up his first slide, someone in the back muttered, "Hope this presentation is tastier than the last one," which set off a chain reaction of stifled laughs. A few people tried to keep it together, but by the time he was halfway through, someone else chimed in with, "Don't forget the salt," and at that point, half the room was doing their best to muffle laughter. I've been told he somehow managed to finish the presentation, but I can't imagine it was easy with his entire team dropping subtle and not so subtle hints every few minutes. And now, it's apparently become a running joke in the office. Anytime someone has to give feedback or present, someone will throw in, "Add a little more garlic," or "Is this feedback PowerPoint approved?" He's basically the office meme now, unofficially dubbed the PowerPoint gourmet. And in what might be the best prank yet, someone went into the company's internal wiki page, the one for onboarding new hires, and added a little unofficial policy at the bottom. It now reads, "Company culture tip. PowerPoints are a powerful tool for workplace communication, but please keep presentations about personal matters, like cooking critiques, out of the home environment." I'm told that every new hire sees it, and it's been getting some serious laughs from anyone who spots it. My ex was apparently mortified when he found out, but couldn't exactly complain, because hey, it's just helpful advice for the team, right? Now it's a full-on company legend, with people half joking that they'll add it to the official onboarding materials. Meanwhile, my friends have been sending me updates non-stop, and I can't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. One friend texted, "You've created an office legend," while another said, "Please tell me he's not planning a rebuttal PowerPoint. Let's hope for everyone's sake that he isn't." As for me, I'm just sitting back with some popcorn, absolutely living for these updates. Who knew that dumping a guy with a PowerPoint addiction would make him the unwitting star of office legend? I feel like I'm watching a sitcom unfold, and every new bit of gossip is just the next episode. Honestly, I never imagined my breakup would lead to him being known as PowerPoint Gourmet around the office. But here we are. Moral of the story? If you're going to critique your partner's cooking with a slide deck, be prepared for that feedback to follow you right into the break room. OP is not an AH. Rather, her BF is an AH for making fun of his cooking to the point that it became an office legend. Although he claimed that he only cracked a joke, deep down, it hurt OP so much, unbearably. As for scores, I would rate OP's BF 3.5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story from after-use-9330. AITA for telling medical schools that one of their candidates is lying about their relationship with my deceased brother, 25F. I'm the youngest of 3 and grew up with 2 older brothers. My brother James was only 1 year ahead of me in school. My junior year of high school, James passed away in a car accident. It destroyed me and my family, and I don't know if we'll ever recover from this loss. The 3 of us went to Catholic school, and so our class sizes were fairly small. You pretty much knew everyone in your grade and in the grades immediately above and below you. There was a girl named Callie in James's grade, and they were in the same classes from grades K-12. They obviously knew each other from school, but they were never close friends. I know they sometimes sat at the same lunch table and went to the same parties occasionally, since the school was so small, but they never hung out one-on-one. He was no closer to her than the average girl in his grade. In fact, I explicitly remember him saying that she was rude and too cool to be friends on a few occasions. When James passed away, the entire school was rattled. People cried for days, even those who weren't all that close to him. I thought it was genuine for the most part, considering it was such a small school, and we all knew each other even if we weren't close friends. However, Callie's response was way out of the ordinary. I remember she sent a long letter to my mom, explaining how much James meant to her a week after he died. My mom appreciated the letter, but was confused since she didn't realize they were friends. She also posted all over social media, saying that her best friend since kindergarten passed away. It's been almost a decade, and she still posts pictures of him from the school yearbook on his birthday and date of his passing. Since they weren't close friends, the only picture of them together are large class photos, and some of them have already been reposted. It's kind of a running joke in my family, and something we all laugh about. For example, my dad always asks how James' best friend is doing, and we all read and laugh about the social media posts. I don't doubt the death was shocking and sad for her at the time, but it's gone on way too long, and I can't help but feel she's using my brother's passing for attention and sympathy. One of my friends from high school is actually family friends with Callie. My friend told me that Callie told everyone from college about James, and whenever she met her college friends, they asked if she was close with James too. This friend called me and said that Callie applied to medical school earlier this year. Apparently, her personal statement was all about her best friend's death and how it inspired her to pursue a career as an emergency physician. My friend actually has a copy of the personal statement since Callie asked her to edit it, and it was shocking. She described growing up with my brother and writing about all the special times they had together, including braving the scariest rides at Disneyland together, going on night swims, and spending hours talking on the phone. She said he was her childhood crush, and she was elated when he expressed that he felt the same way their junior year of high school. She then described ice cream dates, the junior prom, and saying, "I love you" for the first time. It would have been touching if any of it had been true. I was there for my brother's childhood, and I think I would have remembered them going to Disneyland together. I know they weren't dating because my brother dated the same girl for 3 years in high school. She was actually impacted by my brother's passing and keeps in touch with my mom to this day, and sometimes celebrates his birthday with my family. Apparently, the medical schools liked the personal statement because she already has 2 interview invitations. I don't know all the schools she applied to, but my family friend knows the schools that have invited her for interviews. I ended up writing long emails to the admissions committee of both medical schools, explaining that I am the boy in the personal statement's younger sister, and none of it was true. A few days have passed, and I'm starting to wonder if I did the right thing. I felt so upset that she was using my brother and his death for her personal statement, especially when other applicants might have actually experienced loss that motivated them to pursue a career in medicine. Again, I know she worked hard to get into medical school, and maybe this was petty. At the very least, I don't think it was great for my karma. AITA? OP is not an AH. Her deceased brother's schoolmate is an AH for seeking sympathy and attention from people after OP's brother's death. She is a big AH for using a deceased person's name for getting admission in her medical school. It is highly unethical. As for scores, I would rate the liar girl 3.5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Birthday Dash Gift. AITA for turning down the birthday gift my mom's boyfriend gave me. I, 14F, am kind of confused if I'm in the wrong here. I'm leaning towards that I am, but I want someone else's opinion. My mom started dating a new guy like 6-ish months ago, and I honestly never really liked him. I don't know how to explain it other than he just gives me weird vibes. I've been trying to be nice though, because my mom likes him, and I want her to be happy. He's been trying to make an effort, I think. He'll send me texts throughout the day, and pictures. He tells me I'm smart and stuff too, which is nice, but I don't know. I'm just kind of uncomfortable with it. My mom says he's just being nice, but I don't know. Anyway, my birthday was a couple days ago, and he got me a really expensive necklace. He also gave me a ticket to a show that I've been wanting to go see, and he said he has the other one and that we should go together. I just felt like it was too much, and I told him that I was really grateful, but that I couldn't accept them. He got really mad, and he said that he already spent the money, so I should just take it and go with it. But I really didn't want to. It ended with him yelling at me and me basically running away to my bed. My family thinks I was too mean and that he's just trying to bond with me. I don't know. AITA update. So, if any of you were interested, you were right. My mom's boyfriend was trying to groom me. Apparently, for as much as my family said I was overreacting by turning down his gift, my mom didn't like that he yelled at me. Apparently, while she was pushing him for answers about why he got me something so expensive in the first place, he said something she thought was suspicious. Turns out he only started dating her because my mom had a picture of her, my older sister, and me on her dating profile, and he wanted to get to me, which is creepy. She said she's taking that picture off her profile now, but also, she's not going to go on dates for a while, which I definitely feel bad about. I can't help but feel like it's my fault. But yeah, that's the update. Thank you guys for being so nice even if you thought I was being a little stupid. I hadn't really learned much about predators before now. Edit. People keep bringing it up, so maybe some of you can give me advice. In a comment, I mentioned him watching me one weekend by himself and sleeping through most of it. Some of you guys are thinking he drugged me and did something because I only got tired after he made me lunch and I woke up sore. Should I actually tell my mom? I don't really see why it matters considering it happened like 2 weeks ago, and I don't think I could prove anything anyway.
Update 2.
I don't know if this will be my last update or not, but I wanted to post it because of how many of you seemed worried about me. I told my mom. It was really hard. I want to say I was brave about it, but I cried a lot and was really scared. I could barely actually say it out loud, so I showed her my Reddit post and what you guys were saying. She told me that I shouldn't trust strangers on the internet, but that she agreed that what happened the weekend he was checking in on me was weird. She took me to the ER right after I told her, even though it's really not an emergency. I don't really understand everything that the doctors did, so please forgive me if I say anything wrong. They made me do a blood test, urine test, and they took some of my hair because they said that some drugs can be detectable for a few weeks after. The urine test came back already, and it was confusing because at first they said it was PCP, but then they said that they did another test. And apparently there are traces of ketamine, so I don't really know if that means I tested positive for both, or if it was only ketamine. I mean, I've never taken either of those things. So he definitely drugged me, though they said he probably gave me something else too, because how I described it didn't seem like ketamine. But I don't really know what that means. Anyway, I guess we're waiting to see if anything else comes back. They also did a pelvic exam and some ultrasound thing. I don't remember what they called it. They said there was trauma, so I was either or assaulted in some way. I am, or was I guess, a virgin, so there's no debate there. I also don't exactly know how they can tell. But obviously it's their job, so I don't really feel any way about it. But the social worker they brought in said I'm probably in shock. I told them I had gotten my period afterwards with bad cramps, but they told me that it was probably not actually my period and just me bleeding from it. But yeah, that's where we're at. I'm still in the hospital currently. I don't really know why, but I am. I'm at least staying till tomorrow apparently. They want me to meet with a psychologist, and they were talking about starting me on some medication. As for police, they've been contacted, but my mom isn't telling me much. I had to answer so many questions. Thank you guys for being so nice. I probably would have never known what happened if someone didn't point it out. I don't know how exactly I feel about that, because maybe it would have been nicer to not know. But still, thanks. I'm also sorry if this post doesn't make sense. I don't really feel like myself. OP is not an AH for refusing to accept or receiving a birthday present from her mom's toxic boyfriend. He is a big AH for shouting at OP for not accepting the gift, and then doing that mean and criminal thing to OP. OP's mom's BF is the biggest AH, so I would rate him 4.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. As for OP, is innocent, and I would her 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the last story from OK-bar-4003. AITA for refusing to pay for an emergency rescue and ditching my trip mates. Years ago, I planned snowboard trip to the West Coast. I live on the East Coast, ice baby. I've always wanted to go there, and now I had money to afford the flight. My GF at the time didn't want to go as she is not very skilled, and didn't want to spend that kind of money just to snowboard the bunny slops. Well, some of my friends caught wind of this and wanted to go. Now keep in mind, I taught them all how to snowboard, and I know their skill level. Some are decent, some are very basic level snowboarders. I, however, have been snowboarding for 20 years. I love snowboard. I am no Shaun White, but I can make it down the mountain with control and with speed. I told them straight up, I plan to do the diamonds and maybe even spend the afternoon in the bowls. The bowls are typically unmaintained, ungroomed trails that are very steep, rocky with a lot of hidden obstacles, like hidden cliff drops. So I did not plan to spend the day with them. I would maybe do a warm-up run with them and maybe follow them for a few blues. But I wanted to do the tough stuff and have fun. Fast forward, there's 8 of us in Colorado. Day 1, we all go out and spend most of the day together. I wander off for a bit and do my diamond and double diamond runs alone. West Coast skiing is nothing like East Coast. I had a blast and some sore legs. Worth it. Well, day 2, some of them got an ego and said they were going to follow me. I told them I was going to the bowls. They all got pumped and said they wanted to go too. I told them not that I know they weren't good enough for it. Comment? Perhaps. but it was with their well-being in mind. Well, you can't tell me what to do. Fine. So up the lift we went. We had to walk about a quarter mile to the bowl from the lift, past a sign with a warning, "You are entering the bowls. Expert level required. Ski patrol may require added resources for rescue. Proceed at your own caution." So, we paused to catch our breath, strapped in, and went. Immediately, this went to as some of them thought they could leaf drop the run, leaning on one edge of the board facing up the mountain, going from side to side like a leaf falling from a tree. One of them fell down a blind drop and twisted his ankle really badly. We weren't even halfway down the trail. After some waiting and discussions, we finally decided we need to get help. No discussion here. I said I was going to get ski patrol. Flat out gave them all a tongue lashing saying they are amateurs. And only I was capable of getting to the bottom without having an injury. Well, I was correct. Made it out of the bowls in one piece, made it to one of the stations and got ski patrol. They took me on a snowmobile to go up to find him. Total failure. Snowmobile got buried in the snow and we were stuck. We got it unstuck and turned around. So, we took the lift and skid over to them. They first tried to strap him in, but ski patrol said it was way too unsafe for them to ski him down given the rough terrain. Tried to see if we could splint the leg and walk him down. Nothing. They called for a snow truck to come up and get them. A little over an hour later, it comes driving up. They all pile in and leave. I go down the run with ski patrol, who gave me a whole lecture about how dangerous it is for unexperienced riders to do the bowls. I got a text that my buddy was okay, sprained ankle, and they were leaving to go to the hospital. I said, "Go without me," and spent the rest of the afternoon alone. Well, day 3. No one wanted to go to the mountain, and decides to stay at the house and hang out. I left alone and spent the day skiing. Fast forward about 2 weeks, he gets sent a bill for the emergency rescue, approximately $2,000 USD for the truck rental. They all said they would chip in to help pay for it. I said, hell no, you reap what you sow. Said I warned them about the consequences. AITA? OP is not an AH here. It was his friends who were AHs for blaming OP, despite OP keeping them aware of the consequences they had to face throughout the journey. They kept blaming OP, which is not the right thing to do. As for scores, I would rate OP's friends 2 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from food. Okay, 8549. AITA for wanting to break up with my boyfriend because of his mom? I'm a 20-year-old female, and it's obvious that my boyfriend's mom doesn't like me. For some context, I've been dating my boyfriend for 2 years and have known him for 3. His mother, a 43-year-old single mom, lives 2 hours away from us and hasn't been in a relationship for years. It all started in 2022, during my freshman year of college. At the time, my boyfriend and I were just friends in the same friend group. During a parents' weekend event, my boyfriend asked me to meet his mom at the frat house where it was being held. I showed up with my best friend. When I met her, I reached out for a hug, but she seemed bothered by it. I apologized, but she went on to whore-shame me for my outfit. A Lululemon skirt and a hoodie. Feeling uncomfortable, I walked away. Later that night, after most parents had left, she was still there, drinking with college students, which felt unusual. She approached me again and asked if I was interested in her son. I politely said no, but she didn't believe me. Then, she asked if I knew her son was a virgin, which he wasn't, and demanded to know if I was one too. She said she didn't want her son dating a whore, and even demanded proof of my virginity and STD results. I told her I wasn't comfortable discussing that and tried to leave, but she kept at it. Eventually, I told my boyfriend what happened, which led to an argument between him and his mom. Things were awkward between us for a while after that. Fast forward a few months, my boyfriend and I grew closer, and we started dating. When his mom found out, all hell broke loose. She began calling him for hours every day and would show up unannounced. I saw texts where she dragged my name through the mud. My boyfriend defended me, but it didn't help much. Things got worse when we moved in together in 2023 due to rooming issues. His mom wasn't happy about it and began invading our privacy. She would go through our trash, my clothes, and even my makeup. She constantly asked if her son and I were active and threatened to cut his if we were. She even attacked my parents, accusing them of being drug dealers simply because they're Mexican. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore and argued with my boyfriend. We went low contact with his mom for a while, which helped. But once we re-established communication, her behavior escalated again. She'd call me during work or class, accusing me of stealing her son. I begged my boyfriend to talk to her, and after a serious conversation, things seemed to improve. She apologized to me, and I accepted it. For a while, everything was great. Then, in October on my birthday, my boyfriend and friends threw me a surprise party. It was a wonderful evening until I went to grab his phone and saw a disgusting message from his mom. She was comparing me to her, saying she felt replaced and betrayed by him for choosing me over her. She claimed he wasn't in the right headspace to prioritize me over his mother.
I was devastated. I thought her harassment had ended, but clearly, it hadn't. I started questioning my future with my boyfriend. What if this never gets better? What if she speaks badly about me to my children someday? What if she ruins my marriage? I waited for my boyfriend to bring up the message, but he didn't. When I confronted him, he got defensive, accusing me of snooping through his messages. I was furious and began packing to leave. He stopped me, promising to talk to her, but it's been months and still hasn't. I feel so unheard and confused. I love my boyfriend, but I'm tired of constantly being harassed and treated like an intruder in his life. All I've ever wanted was for his mom to support and love me. My ex-boyfriend's mom was so wonderful. We had sleepovers, got our nails done together, and shared everything. I don't understand why my current boyfriend's mom treats me this way. There have been many graphic detailed moments with her that I can't discuss due to them finding this post. So, am I the for wanting to leave my boyfriend because of his mom? OP is not an AH. She is dealing with the toxic behavior of her boyfriend's mother. OP is completely justified in her actions. Her boyfriend's mother is trying to invade OP's privacy. Her boyfriend and his mother are AHs for not supporting OP in this stressful situation. As for scores, I would rate OP's boyfriend 2.5, his mother 2, and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Sarah Butler, 312. AITA for telling my husband to just never mind. I, 36F, grew up in an ultra-conservative Christian family. I have a twin and 3 younger siblings that I often had to help take care of growing up. My mom was sick a lot, so it was more involved than just babysitting them for a few days. I was, for all intents and purposes, junior mom. My twin also helped out, but when it came to things like staying up all night with a sick kid, it was me. So I had a lot of responsibilities at a very young age. Now, I've been an emotional wreck of a person my entire life. I was 9, and I would stand at the sink doing dishes and would burst into tears. When grilled about why by my parents, I couldn't explain it. I didn't know why I felt so sad and hopeless. I just knew that I did. I also did not get along with my adoptive dad, at all. Think mortal enemies, on speaking terms. My parents decided to take me to a Christian counselor to figure me out and fix me. She diagnosed me with ODD, oppositional defiance disorder. I won't go into a lot of detail, let's just say her prescribed treatment just made things worse. And then I learned that it was indeed not a safe space to confide in, because she was immediately, at the end of literally every session, going back and telling my parents everything we had talked about. And then I would be punished, corrected, accordingly based on what I'd said. After a while, a weird sort of self-preservation kicked in, and I learned how to seem normal. But I was not normal. I was seriously struggling. At least 3 seed attempts from 8th to 12th grade. I even lived with my grandparents for a little bit, where I had started to do much better, until my dad decided I wasn't waking up early enough. My daily schedule started at 9 when I woke up, and made me go back to live with my parents. I begged my mom to let me stay. My mom rarely stood up for me though, so that was a hard no. My friends got my school counselor involved, and CPS was called out because I didn't feel safe at home. My dad has an amazing temper, and sometimes he would get physical, enough that I was always scared of him. I of course was punished for that, even though it wasn't me that called CPS or approached the counselor. I was hospitalized a couple of times. At those family therapy meetings, it was all my fault. Even the therapist conducting the meetings found them entirely unproductive. And then my parents sent me to another Christian therapist. Same situation as the first. Wash and repeat. When I was 18, I moved out. Horrible things happened to me. I have scars literally and figuratively. My mental health took several thousand massive hits. But eventually, I became a mostly functioning adult. I sure try really hard anyway. In 2012, I met my husband. We got married 2 years later. I love this man. He has a lot wrong with him medically, especially in the last 4 years, so I stay home to take care of him. If he can't get a transplant, we're looking at EOL care and options. He's on disability, and we can barely pay bills, let alone have emergency funds. I say all that to show I understand that he's under a lot of stress, and I understand how it feels to be sick all the time and feel like your body is the enemy.
Fast forward to today. My mom sent a message to my family's group chat on FBM that had a video of a mind doctor explaining that he doesn't agree with ODD diagnoses and that usually it's a symptom of ADHD, autism spectrum, depression, OCD, or anxiety. Guess who can tick 4 out of 5 of those boxes? Yup, me.
Then my mom posted a note under the video saying, "I wish we'd had this information when the twins were younger. It explains a lot. Sorry, my loved, all of you, because we were all affected by this." And, probably irrationally, I was immediately angry. Enough so that I started crying. My husband, 43M, asked what was wrong with me. I started to explain and tried to show him the video, to which he replied, "Why would I want to watch this?" After asking me again, "What is wrong with you?" I tried to explain, but I was having trouble getting my words out. I do this thing where when I'm upset and crying, or trying not to cry, I feel strangled. The words don't want to come out, and I feel like I'm trying to talk while someone has their hands on my throat. I feel like I'm literally choking on my words. My husband has no patience for that. Enough so that I rarely tell him what's wrong with me, because he always reacts like he's angry at me for trying to tell him what I'm upset about. When I do try to tell him about things going on with me, 8 out of 10 times, I end up feeling like I'm the problem. He just stresses me out more when he acts angry or annoyed that I'm upset. It's just easier to deal with my issues myself. But I obviously couldn't hide that I was upset this time, so I was trying to choke out what I was upset about. I managed to get out that I wonder if I would be normal if I had been diagnosed correctly as a kid, instead of under the huge umbrella of ODD. He just looked at me, scowling. He said, "What?" I tried to explain the gist of the video, but he was annoyed because I was struggling to get it out. I then tried to explain why what my mom had said had made me angry, but I could barely get the words out because the face of complete annoyance he had was just making it harder to speak. Then he started yelling at me that he couldn't understand what I was saying while crying and to stop crying. I held my breath for a minute to try to get control over my voice and throat that wanted to seal itself closed. I finally got out, "Just never mind, I'm sorry I said anything." I then got up and off. He made a snide remark or two, but honestly, I was just trying to get myself zen, so ignored it. He didn't check on me and didn't ask to talk about it when I came out of the room. It's like I never said anything or had an emotional moment at all. He did ask what was for supper though, so I guess he moved on from it. So AITA for telling him to just never mind, walking off and ignoring him for a little bit. I know he doesn't feel good, ever. Should I have just been more understanding of him not feeling good and being grumpy? OP is not an AH for being concerned his boyfriend's dismissive behavior, which has strained their relationship. OP is completely justified in her actions. OP's boyfriend is an AH for his toxic behavior, and I would rate him 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets nothing. Let's now jump on to the next story from Abel_Jeweler_5211, AITA. For starting off the year by cutting myself out of the group, I have just returned from a meeting with a local business networking organization that I regularly volunteer at. I am an active member of this organization, pay dues, and participate in several subgroups. I believe in the mission, and I personally believe that I have benefited professionally from being part of the organization. This is part of the reason why I feel so conflicted about how to move forward. A little background information. This organization has only a small number of paid staff, so it relies heavily on volunteers. One of the main subgroups I participate in is highly regarded and focuses on new member outreach and member participation. This means I attend almost every event, as well as planning meetings and additional tasks with regard to new members. There is very little direct benefit from participating in this group besides general visibility as you participate in the events and potentially being recognized at the annual dinner if you were one of the top participants. Awards are generally given based on points tallied for actions done, but require old-fashioned turning sheets during monthly meetings. About 6 months ago, I made friends with a new networker in the same industry. I invited her to many events with this organizations, and we became good friends along the way. And not long after she joined, she was specially invited to join another elite subgroup. This group I have always wanted to join. However, typically participating is reserved for people more established in their career and are well-connected. Though I am considered well-connected, I am not in my 40s or 50s. I was shocked as my friend was of similar age to me, 5-ish years older,
and was relatively new to both the organization and the industry. To be noted, performing well in this group can result in paid for trip abroad. I was gutted, but I made peace with this after the initial shock wore off and fully supported my friend. She has since decided that she wants to remove herself from the group, as she feels she is not the best fit time and skill-wise. She has not told them yet. I have also made friends with one of the paid staff of the organization, so we are not big on personal outings, but we see each other occasionally after work and 2 to 5 times during the week for professional reasons. She is involved in the organizational side of all of the subgroups. Over the years, she has come to know my work ethic and dedication and my love for leadership roles. During the meeting today, it was announced that the co-chairs would be replaced for the following year. In regards to the outreach and participation group, the current co-chairs are very established and are key figureheads of large organizations. It was announced that 2 of my peers of similar age were chosen to lead the group next year. Both of these individuals have points that look good on paper, but have expressed greatly that they have become busy in life due to both personal and professional reasons. One in particular, I rarely see at events and has dropped out of other subgroups we used to be a part of together due to time commitment issues. Both individuals are fairly soft-spoken, as the group is very diverse in age, industry, profession, etc. I was extremely surprised that these 2 were chosen, as I felt I didn't be recognized by an award for my hard work. I have not turned in points for my work. After bringing my shock to my friend, she gave a snide remark, saying it was a point-based decision. This has never been the case, and I was shocked both at the decision and the cold attitude. I have been asked for help in other roles. However, after looking back, all of these are centered around them needing something and are short-lived involvements, like speaking during an event or being a key component of a fundraiser. All of this has made me feel like my help over the past couple of years has been ill-given. I have gone out of my way to fill in the missing pieces. Even a few days ago, I took 4 hours out of my working day to help with an event where no one out of the group could attend to help. Where I want to be happy for those have been chosen for these positions, I am honestly pretty hurt. I feel like things were not clearly communicated with me, and I would have done things differently. Maybe it is my pride holding me back, as I feel I would be best in the position compared to those picked for the roles. I feel like starting the year off with a blank slate and stepping back from the organization just to participate as a member. However, I know that one of the largest events is in January, and they would love all the help they can get. I also feel like I could be the AH for being overly prideful and petty for something that feels like a popularity contest. If I step down before the first of the year, I feel like both the organization and other members of the group will know it's directly related to those elected as co-chairs. AITA. OP is not an AH for deciding to leave the company where his efforts are not being valued. OP's decision to prioritize his well-being and mental peace is 100% justified. On the other hand, OP's colleague is an AH for stealing OP's credits. So, I would rate OP's colleague 2.5 out of 5 and OP 0 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from Dog Trainer. But a girl, AITA, for feeling like saying I love you to a coworker on a regular basis is disrespectful to your relationship? My long-term BF, 38M, and I had been together for almost 3 years when he got his current job that he has been at for 2 years now. When he took the job, our relationship was good, but we discussed having boundaries when dealing with female coworkers. Previously, there were issues we were trying to work through. Nothing super big. A friend of his was him, and he stayed friends with this client, but enough to have a conversation. He has a very flirtatious personality, even though he doesn't think so, i.e., giving shoulder massages to female coworkers. At his new job, he got very close with one particular coworker. He initially told me she was a 50-year-old woman. She is my age of 30. He talked about her all the time. Granted, they started at the same time and did training together. But after training, they only worked 1 day a week together. It is a high-stress job, similar to a police officer, but not. Even on Christmas, I give him a present he wanted, and the first words out of his mouth are, "I can't wait to play this with coworker." It was a dart game he said would be fun for us to play, which is why I bought it. My BF always said he wasn't a social media guy, doesn't have social media account. He does, but his accounts are private with nothing on them. We aren't even Facebook friends. Yet, he has a group chat with this female coworker and another female coworker. That chat is named My, and they communicate regularly. On to the main issue. I get a call from my BF while I am out of state for the weekend working. He is upset. His female best friend coworker is pregnant, saying that it will make his job harder when she goes on maternity leave, but also saying she is always crying and complaining about her BF and saying she is going to leave him. How dumb could she be to get pregnant? This took over the conversation, even though my grandpa passed away that morning. I didn't have a chance to tell him, and he didn't have the thought to ask about him. He was in ICU on a vent for a couple days, and he was aware of this. Later that night, he calls me as he is getting ready to leave work. We end the conversation, but he doesn't hang up. I had him on speaker and was working on my laptop, so I didn't hang up right away. I then overhear the convo between him and the coworker. He is telling her she can go home and he will finish the work. He ends his goodbye with "love you," and I lose my... I was so hurt. Through all the years of knowing him, and we met as co-workers, he has never said that to anyone but me, his mom, or his daughter. He took 6 months to tell me, "I think I love you," when we got in a relationship. He has even made the statement, "Who else would I be saying that to?" When I casually asked once, "Who was that?" after he got off a long call that ended with "love you." A lot of the time, I have to remind him to say it to me. It wasn't something he said often. He claims that I am out of touch, and it is completely normal for co-workers to end conversations with "love you." And because his co-worker isn't bothered by it, it shouldn't matter. But doesn't it matter that it bothers me? I think this is really disrespectful to their significant others, especially when all three are in relationships and in their high 30s. Granted, both girls have told my BF that they want to leave their partners. In my experience, if a girl tells another guy that they are feeling out the response or planting a seed, I would never talk about my BF to a male coworker. But am I crazy? Our relationship has lots of other problems we were working through. I don't feel like a priority. I feel alone constantly. He is not romantic and never takes me on actual dates, etc. So maybe that's why I feel so strongly about this. I started my own business 3 years ago, so I work from home through the week and travel for work on weekends. I don't have traditional coworkers anymore. But before this, I've never had this experience at work. I bartended for 10 plus years at multiple bars and wineries, so I am by no means a prude. Am I the AH for feeling like saying "I love you" to a coworker on a regular basis is disrespectful to your relationship and inappropriate? At this time, the relationship is over. I am just looking for feedback. OP is not an AH for ending her relationship. Rather, her boyfriend is an AH for being unfaithful in the relationship and showing disrespect to OP. OP's actions are completely justified. So, I would rate OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale and his boyfriend 3.5. Let's now jump on to the last story from Zango. AITA for not wanting me stepchildren father to spend the holidays with us. My fiancé and I have been together for 5 years. We met online through mutual friends. She left the father of her kids and immediately got into a relationship with me. She had 3 kids prior to us getting together. They are 5, 6, and 8 now. We have been caring for them solely with no help from their father for 3 years, 4 for the youngest because he came here first. Their relationship was very toxic when they were together. Manipulation, emotional abuse, narcissism, controlling, etc. Just typical immature toxic bull. And my fiancé was very sheltered and brainwashed. I was raised by my sister and mom, both very independent women, and it floored me when I first heard the way this man spoke to her. She had no friends girl, barely saw her family, never left the house, didn't have any hobbies or full-time work. She would just be home raising the kids and getting treated like garbage. Fast forward to this year. BD got dumped by his girlfriend that he was living with on the West Coast and suddenly decided to move across the country because he couldn't stand being away from his kids anymore. Where was this energy for the past 3 years? IDK. Basically, I let him stay in our home Fremont because I felt bad for him and thought it would be good for the kids. And honestly, the break would have been nice for my fiancé and I to finally be able to take some days for ourselves. Worst idea I've ever had. He started small with complaining about our home and dogs and things like that. Then the kids started acting out because he isn't parenting them. He is just playing Xbox in the basement while they are wilding out upstairs.
It got to the point where they started misbehaving at school. 6 months of this gradual decline, and my partner and I start to have issues in our relationship. Lack of communication, external stressors, fighting, and we start talking about separating. He finds out about this and immediately traps, literally stands in the doorway so she can't leave, and forces my partner to listen to his rant about how she treats him and how they could try again and move back across the country and make things work as a family, etc. She is emotionally exhausted already, trying to figure things out with me, so she just deadpan stare off and lets him ramble before finally getting sick of him talking about himself when she is going through all this already. Then she blows up telling him she is never going to be in a relationship with him again and tells him to leave that night. He complains but does, and then she tells me about it. I immediately told her that was disrespectful of both of us, especially her, and I'm no longer comfortable with him staying in our home, and she agrees. We tell him, and he blows TF up, showing his true colors, saying a bunch of shit to try and hurt me in specific like, "You have nothing to do with my conversations with her, my kids aren't your business," etc. And bringing the kids into it, telling them things they are too young to understand, and telling them to keep it secret between them, which of course they don't, because they are kids and they trust us. Funnily enough, this pushed my partner and I to communicate effectively LOL, and we decide to stay together and work on our relationship and on ourselves as individuals. He finds out she is not going to be moving back across the country and loses his shit sobbing and babbling to her on the phone for hours about how his life is and how nobody loves him and he wants to end it. So I told him he is no longer allowed in my house at all, and if he wants to see the kids, he can come pick them up. It's been going like that for a month now. And with the holidays approaching, I brought it up, and my fiancé immediately says he is spending it with us. I looked at her like she was crazy. Her thoughts are, it's for the kids, and no one should be alone on holidays. My thoughts are, if he keeps acting however he wants and getting away with it, he's never going to learn a damn thing. Also, I just don't want him in my house. We tried to do it for the kids, and look what happened. AITA? OP is not an AH for trying to maintain the stability of his family. His fiancée is an AH, a big one, for reconciling with her ex-husband, even if it was meant to be only for the kids. This behavior is not acceptable, and OP is justified in his reaction. So, I would rate OP's fiancé 3.5 out of 5, and OP gets nothing. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye bye, see you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.